I like being lonely. I'm a boss, tell them not today. Swerving on these chickens, cluck out my lane. I'm a boss, out my way. I just do every little thing.
All right. You may be able to tell that I am a little bit sick. There's a story behind that. My daughter turned 2 4 days ago, and she decided to start coming down with a cold. And I let her sleep with me because, of course, it's a birthday. So all night long, her face is pressed up against my face, and every 5 seconds, it's right into my eyes, nose, and mouth. That's right. All the best membrane places to soak in all the germs. So if you notice that I kind of sound like a Muppet, that's why. We just got back from Lexington today, and we are doing our speaking tour for Business Acceleration Playbook. If you haven't heard about what that is yet, you will be able to check that out at www.businessaccelerationplaybook.com to find out on upcoming schedule tours. I have Sharon Miller here. Brought her all the way up to Cincinnati to talk to you all today and to tell you a little bit about what she's got going on. She was one of the speakers today at our seminar, and she did a great job. And we were all pretty blown away by some of the stuff that she had to share with us, and I really thought you all would enjoy hearing this. So I want to go ahead and say hi, Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Sharon. So I'll let her go ahead and tell you a little bit about her and her company and some of what she had to say to all of us today.
I'm Sharon Miller. I own Legacy Global Consulting, and we are located in Batesville, Indiana. We specialize in everything Google, that is anything not AdWords. So basically building out your Google My Business page, doing posting, all the fun things that we get to do every day with Google, all the way out to giving you an enormous amount of value within the analytics that we do. So I always say every day is a great day when you work for Google. So, and we do have a lot of fun with that. But I thought I'd touch a little bit on some of the things I talked about today on a personal level. So we talked a little bit about the Google stuff today, and then I talked a little bit about some of the things that I've been doing this year. I think that personal growth is always really super important, and so with that, this year I did a masterclass program, and I did it through Brendon Burchard's growth organization, and it was just very life-changing, very thought-provoking for me. So I touched on just a couple things that I gained out of it. One of the biggest things I think that I got out of it was we did this homework assignment one week where we were creating our door words. And what a door word is it's a set of 3 words that you think of in different categories when you actually enter a door or you get out of your car or whatever. And it's supposed to make you think about how you're going to interact with the people that are on the other side of that door. Or maybe even a way that you do something in which to remember something so that you, like, don't forget your car keys, which is an example that Brendon gives in his class. So we talked a little bit about my self-words. And so what self-words are basically the words that you're trying to create in order to guide your life. And for me, my self-words were very much what I wanted to get out of not only just myself, but my interactions when I went back home after like a really rough day. We all get to the point where we try to rely on other people when you're having a bad day or you're having a bad time in your life, and you find yourself becoming very connected with somebody or with something, and you begin relying on them versus relying on yourself. So one of my words was self-sufficient. One of my other words was successful, because I am a successful person, but at times you allow yourself to feel like I didn't do that right, or I didn't say that right. And I think whether you're a woman or a man, you really get into that. But women are really especially hard on themselves.
They definitely are.
And so, you sit there and I go, I'm a successful woman. And then you're like, oh, did I say that right? Or did I offend them? Did I stay too long or leave too early? Or, we overanalyze life. I mean, it is just how women are. And so one of my things was just to accept the fact that I'm successful and be okay with it. And as long as the person didn't say anything, then obviously the interaction went great.
And, that was one thing I've heard you do this talk several times now. We were in New York City and Philly and also Columbus. I've heard her do this growth talk several times now, and that was one thing that really resonated with me. Like you said, I mean, the guys out there, I'm sure, take stuff home too. I know they do. I've just never been a guy, so I can't tell you exactly how they're thinking. But I know me as a woman and as a mom, I'm always second guessing myself. I know we had this conversation just about the fact that no matter what, you always feel like you're not doing the right thing. Whenever I stayed at home full time, I felt like I was not doing the right thing. Whenever I worked full time for corporate, didn't feel like I was doing the right thing. Now I'm working for myself for Reset Business Consulting. I feel like I'm not doing the right thing. So you always have this, I'm not doing the right thing feeling. And I know if I end up having a really bad day, I've been guilty of taking that home with me and not, using a door word, as you said, and really showing up at home to my kids the way that I want to be showing up when I'm home. I'm guilty of that. So that was one thing that really stuck with me, and I'm sure it's going to stick with our listeners too.
Yeah, I mean, I think even for myself, my ex-husband was a stay-at-home dad, and so, we had a parent at home, but yet, when I had to go to India with work, I felt guilty, about it. And I don't, I also wondered how people thought. I mean, like here she is jet setting, across the globe to go work on a project. And so, it does get to you. And even if people don't say things, you just know, especially you and I both living in farming communities. And, we have a lot of older individuals that live in the communities that we're in. And so, you get looked at in a way of, like you said, am I doing the right thing or not? So my last self word of my 3 is happy. And I think that's so important. So, I actually had somebody recently tell me that they wondered what it was like to live in my life of unicorns and rainbows. and that, every time they see me, I have a smile on my face and I'm laughing. I won't say that I always feel that way. I always try to project that. But it's really hard when, you get in the car. I'm in Cincinnati. I'm driving all the way back out to Batesville. All these things start weighing on your mind because we're women again and we analyze everything to death. And I get home and it's like I've got all these things in my mind and I've got this gigantic list of follow-ups, things from my appointments for the day. But I walk in that door and I have to be that parent for those kids, And so, I have to kind of check myself at the door and be happy and excited to see them and, and give them time. I think we both talked about it. Like last week, I had my son going, Mom, if you're going to work tonight, can you at least sit up here on the couch and use your computer and work next to me so you're by me, which was heart-wrenching. And you had the
exact same day. I don't even know that the universe has collided that day. I don't know what happened, but the exact same day my son said, hey, Mom, do you remember when you used to be here all the time? And I was just like, and then you have that mom guilt. It's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I am gone so much. And then you start picking everything apart. Is it worth it? What should I be doing? Maybe I'm working too much. But one thing that I did kind of come back to as, we're nearing the end of 2018 right now. And I'm like looking toward 2019. I've already decided that one of my big focus points for 2019 is not necessarily to work less nor to work more, but to work more focused because, I have lots of things that I want to do. And that's great. I'm always going to have those things I want to do. And I'll write them down on my list of want to do one day. But I'm going to pick a few things and really hyper focus on those things. And that way I could be, well, number one, more focused. And number two, more available for the kids because, spreading myself too thin does not help anybody. I used to pride myself on the fact that I multitasked. I actually used to write this on my resume. Hilarious enough. I'm an efficient multitasker. What the hell does that even mean? Only thing that multitasking is that you're just doing a whole lot of things shitty at the same time. Honestly, that's all it is. You can't effectively, I can't do 2-3 things all at one time. I can't sit here and do 3 things at one time. I know that, like logically, but yet I would always have all these things I was trying to do at one time instead of, having them all lined up and doing them in order that needed to be done. So I think all of that kind of goes back to, what you're saying about, just trying to pick your 3 things that you want to show up as when you go home, and that's going to really just filter into the rest of your work life, personal life, and everything. Yeah. Well, and like Amber, my business partner, she bought recently Brendan Burchard's actual planning book. He wrote his own planning book. It just was released maybe a month ago. So we're both going to start using it in January. But I've been already just kind of taking notes out of it and making sure that I'm focusing on things. And one of the biggest things within the class that I went through was not just planning out your workday. And I was guilty of this. I mean, like, I knew from 7:30 in the morning when I walked out of that house till 6 o'clock at night when I walked back in, I knew where I was going to be every minute of every day. But from the time I got up to when I left and from the time I got home to when I went to bed, there was no structure to my life. And so that's one of the things I've got out of it. And it was really
big for me to say, I don't care what I'm doing at 11:30 at night, I'm in bed. Now, I will honestly tell you for the last 9 days of my life, that has been about 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Only because of the fact that we are doing this stock raise. We are doing a major rollout and rebranding of our company coming in January. So, woohoo, get ready. No big surprise. We pretty much already told people what we're doing. But,
we'll still act surprised. Like, oh my goodness. That's so shocking.
Yeah. So, but it has just consumed my life to get these funds raised, to get the stock raise closed out, to get the rebranding done. And a lot of what we're launching, obviously, is a big online thing. So I feel like in January, I'm going to be able to accomplish a lot more because I am not going to be out there pedaling the streets 5 to 6 days a week. I'm going to be able to have days where I work from the office taking phone calls, as all my reps will have phone call days now. So I think all of us will get a little bit more of structure in our life.
Structured day.
So, and so I'm with that, I'm going to kind of circle back around to my 3 words. So the next section within that is interaction words. How I engage with others and how I treat them. So my 3 words were honest, helpful, and thoughtful. And I actually had these posted in my car because a lot of times my first meeting in the day would be a networking meeting that I would go to. But I also, in my journal that I write in all day long to take notes, and these are the things I got to follow up with or write referrals that come from clients and that type of stuff in. They're in a sticky note that is on the page I'm working on in that day. So even if I lose my train of thought from walking from the car to in there, when I sit down and have a one-on-one with a client or, I'm going back to have a meeting with them, I'm referring back to my notes, I'm always in my book. And because I'm always in my book, I'm always seeing my Post-it note. And, now it's just become a habit. Those words are ingrained in my mind. It is important for me to get to that point that when I leave somebody, they feel like we've had a very genuine, authentic conversation, that I've been genuine, authentic in the way that we've handled their business, that I've been helpful to them, because I know that our services are not necessarily cheap. And I know that there are definitely businesses out there that cannot afford them. But I want everybody to know that we're there to support them and what goes on within their Google pages and, within the advanced analytics system, all that type of stuff. So I try to leave always somebody with something that can be beneficial to help grow their business. Because as I tell everybody, Google is the first place most people are ever going to see your business. So if that page does not represent your business in the way that you want it to, you only had that one chance to make that good first impression. So, if you Google your business and it doesn't look the way you want it to, if it doesn't shine and sparkle like your website, you better have a second thought about it. But there are people who can't afford to have us help them to make it do what it does. So anyway, that's where my helpful and just thoughtful. I want people to feel like I listen to them and that I've given them the opportunity to understand what they really need in their business, because maybe online social media is not anything near what they need in their business. And maybe some of the other contacts I have could do so much for their business. So, networking is all about being able to introduce people to people. What you gain out of it is secondary. And I truly believe that. I'm a big networking component. You're a big networking person. Mm-hmm. And I think we both are work that way. And I think that's why we're successful in, just people coming to us as mentors and just, and working with us. I had a lady call me the other day and she said, listen, 3 times in the last 2 weeks, I have been given your name and told to call you. And so I'm finally calling you. And to me, there's no bigger compliment than that.
Exactly. About networking, I know for a lot of people, networking can seem so foreign. It can just seem just so hard. We like to sit and think of networking as this super professional thing that we all must do to grow our business. And while obviously it is a professional setting and it is something that we need to do to grow our business, I also think it's important to know that you need to really show up as who you are. You need to show up and be the real you. I know me, myself, when I was in corporate and especially when I went out on my own, I thought I had to have this air of super extra hyper professionalism. And that really wasn't who I was at a core. Am I professional? Yeah, I can be professional, but I'm also, well, you know me, I'm just super crazy all the time. And I hid that, because I kept thinking, well, I can't show that side of me because, that's not quote unquote corporate. That's not quote unquote professional, but what I started to find as I kind of started to break down some of those barriers and started to break down some of those walls is when I started letting my real personality show through, I actually made deeper connections than I did whenever I was trying to just actually, I've had people come up to me and say when they first met me, which was when I literally first started out with my company, they hated me. They said that I came across as stuck up. And that was because literally I'm like sucking in every rude joke. Well, I'm always coming up with some kind of sarcastic something and, some kind of quirky thing to say. And I was holding, it's super inappropriate most of the time. Like I actually held one a few minutes ago because you were talking and we were talking about, you were doing your side hustle, like pedal in the streets. I had to hold a few of those jokes in, just because you were still talking, not because I'm, putting on the air of professionalism or anything. But seriously, I had a couple of people be like, gosh, you're so much different than I thought you would be. When I first met you, I thought you were so stuck up. And I just kind of laughed. I was like, no, that was me like biting my tongue off to not say all the inappropriate stuff that kept coming to my head. And I still keep it at bay, obviously. But, once I started letting my real personality show through and I wasn't trying to hide it, I was able to make those real connections. Now, does that mean that everybody's going to love me? No. I mean, I'm still probably got people that don't like me like, oh my gosh, she said inappropriate. And that's fine. They don't have to connect with me. But I'm also not like sucking it in and killing myself to try to be somebody I'm not. So I think, if we're talking to somebody that really has not been involved in networking, I'd say one of my tips is be yourself. What about you, Sharon? I mean, you have any tips for anybody that maybe doesn't have much of a background in networking, walking in there for the first time?
I would say, my biggest thing is talk to people. Mm-hmm. I mean, I see so many people when they come into a networking event, and it's the first time there, they just kind of find a seat and they sit down. And it's almost like they're hoping the people around them are going to talk to them. Well, you're at a networking event, so rest assured you will be talked to.
Yeah.
But, even if it's outside of your comfort zone, nobody knows that. So just go in and start talking to people. I mean, I go to networking events and people joke around and say, Sharon showed up, the party started.
Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes I walk in there kind of like dancing, singing a theme song, but just put yourself out there. The worst case somebody can say is, I don't really want to talk to you, but I can tell you're not going to get that.
I've never seen that in any of the groups we've been in. Everybody is really excited to see somebody new. It's almost like a joke. Like, hey, actually we've whispered to each other sometimes, some of us sitting there saying, hey, fresh meat. Because, sometimes you see the same faces so many times. Somebody new walks in, everybody's like beelining for him. Hey, who are you?
I would think my other advice that I would give somebody is have an idea of who you're trying to meet. Because so often people walk in there and the two things they don't do basically is they don't know what their elevator pitch is.
Yeah.
So they, when it says give your 30-second commercial, they fumble over that. Take a little bit of time, even if it's a quote from like somebody that you read online that's inspirational or whatever it may be, or, get a story from one of the other sales reps in your company or something and bring something so you're not just standing there going, I'm Sharon Miller with Legacy Global Consulting and I own, a Google certified business and we do people's Google pages.
Exactly.
I mean, go in and be like, my gosh, I'm Sharon Miller and I have a cool job because I have a Google business. And you know what? In the last couple of weeks, we've had clients that have literally called us and said, I had a 20% profit increase in my business in the last 4 months. And the one lady called me and said, our photo views are off the charts. Thanks so much for the Google 360 photo shoot that you did. I mean, just, and get that out. I mean, like stories sell and it makes you seem real.
Yeah.
And,
exactly.
it puts that realness and authenticness to you. So, that would be my two,
it makes it much
tips.
more pleasant to listen to than somebody, going around saying I think some people take commercial too literally.
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of them try to like mimic what's the teacher's name from Ferris Bueller? Bueller. And seriously, I mean, there's sometimes I'm like zoning out during some of the commercials. Don't be that guy or gal.
Yeah.
Go in there and just make it fun. And you don't have to be super scripted. And like Sharon said, you can read a quote or tell them, something cool that you did at your job yesterday or just really who you are. Like she said, tell a story. Humans are suckers for stories. That's one thing that we teach all the time, with Reset is just the fact that stories, tell your story, be that brand, bring that brand to life with your story. So you can do that even within networking groups. Figure out, who you are. who you want to be, who you want to project to others that your company is and what you do, and bring it to life with a story.
Yeah, and come up with your avatar. I mean, I'm sure you've probably heard that. I'm sure if you're in networking at all, or if you're in the sales aspect or marketing of your business, you've heard the phrase, who is your avatar? Whether you understand who your ideal client is, or maybe you have to, if you're new and you're young and you're just getting out there, maybe you need somebody to explain that to you within your business, but figure out who that is, because that way you're listening intently when people talk, and you can start thinking, okay, so he's in the insurance industry. I do this. They're a good complementary business to us. I definitely need to make sure he has my card, and that we have a one-on-one sit down at some point in the next couple of weeks so that we can get a chance to know each other. And I mean, that's the biggest thing I can say, because otherwise you can, and I hate to say this sometimes, but you can have all the one-on-ones you want, but if you don't know who you're after, you're going to spend so much time that's wasted, where you could be out making a sale here or there, having a one-on-one with someone that maybe isn't your ideal candidate, unless you just find that you've got great rapport and you're going to have a wonderful friendship with that person. It's hard to say no to somebody when they ask you to have a one-on-one. It really is. But there are times that I'll be like, okay, I can't meet with you right now, but I will eventually meet with them. It just may take me a month to get to the point that I have just free time in my schedule. But, try to stay focused on who you're really trying to meet and what you're really trying to get out of that networking event.
And that kind of goes back to what I was saying about just being super hyper focused. Meeting people one-on-one's awesome, amazing, and you can possibly maybe do business with them. And even if you can't directly do business with one another, maybe they know somebody that you can do business with. So it can be productive. However, I know, again, starting out my company, I was just like one-on-oneing it to death. I was just like, anybody, yes, yes, yes. But then what I was finding is, all I'm doing is like sitting and drinking coffee and having happy hours all day long. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, that's a pretty good day, but
especially when you love a coffee.
Especially when you love coffee and happy hours. I mean, you can't go wrong there. But I was not getting my work done. I would spend all day long meeting. And at the end of the day, I'd go home. And, I'd deal with all the kids' stuff in the evening, and I'd stay up way too late trying to get my stuff done. And I hate to say wasted, but I was not super productive in my day. So I think, again, going into 2019 with my super hyper-focused goal, I'm still going to do the one-on-ones, but I'm going to cap it. I'm going to I haven't picked a number yet, but I'm going to pick a number and say, okay, I'm doing this many one-on-ones a week, and that's it. Whether it be 1, 2, 3, I haven't decided. But I'm not going to just add aimless one-on-ones all the time. And, I'm going to pick that number, put it into my schedule every single week, and when it's full, it's full. Because I was really bad, and I'm going to say was, because was like last week. So really I can't even say was, about, hey, can you meet? And I tell myself, no, you need to get your stuff done. I'm like, yeah, I can totally meet. I can do that, because I feel bad and I keep thinking I'm going to miss out. But the problem is, making this stuff with no real plan, making these like one-on-one appointments with no real plan, I am missing out. I'm missing out on stuff that I know I can get done just for something that maybe might happen if it's the right connection. And that's not super hyper focused, and that's definitely not going to be kind of in my goal setting, for 2019.
Right.
I guess kind of the overall goal for us for this whole new year is we both are working together. We met in a one-on-one from a networking meeting.
We did.
And it was obviously pretty productive. And we are doing lots of business together now. And we are doing the business acceleration playbook. We are, partnering up together with some of our business stuff. And obviously now we're doing podcasts with you all on Successfully Chaotic. So, I mean, that was obviously a great one-on-one. You never really know who you can meet. So I don't want to scare you off with the one-on-ones. I'm just saying, look at your schedule, figure out what you can do, and don't sacrifice getting your work done.
Well, and knowing that I came out of the consulting industry and you were a consultant,
yeah,
and especially that I knew that you did a lot of marketing consultant, I knew that we had to sit down and have a one-on-one. I mean, you were in my avatar of, people.
And then when we met and we both figured out that we're super hyper and crazy nuts, you never know what's going to come out of our mouth. It was instant, like, we have to be together. It was like hearts meant to be. So yeah. So anyway, back to your words, your door words.
Yes.
You need to get to the last
Yes.
3 surprise door words.
So the last set of door words is success markers. So what made me most successful and what makes me even more successful? So my words, and these were ones I literally put on a Post-it note in my bathroom. So in the morning when I was getting ready, or even like if I come home and I'd have a bad day or whatever might happen, because let's face it, I mean, you never know what your day is going to be like. You have the best of intentions when you walk out of your house and you're like,
oh, yeah,
I'm a rock star and I'm going to kill it today.
Yeah.
And you're singing your little theme song in your head, and you walk out and get in that car and you drive and you have your first meeting and you walk out of there going, where's my rainbow and unicorns?
Yeah. And then you may or may not drive home and drink a bottle or 2 of wine. Or maybe that's just me. That might not be you. That might be me.
Mine's Kahlua mudslides.
Yeah. Yours is Kahlua mudslides. She's like, I'm not hiding. I'm Kahlua mudslides all
Luckily,
day.
I have a liquor store
all
with a client
day.
in there
Yeah.
in my town.
She's got it on speed dial. Excuse me, it's a bad day today. Send over my Kahlua. Actually, he's probably. Do you have one of those like easy buttons? You just like touch the easy button and just.
Oh no, they call me every month and say, "Hey, your check is ready. Can you stop and pick it up?" I'm like, "Yeah, can I spend half of it while I'm here?"
Yeah, I'm sure they're like, "Yes, you can. Yes, you can." Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, so my 3 words are confident, respected, and enjoyable. And they kind of go around like, life is tough. I mean, let's just face it. There have been many times in my life that things have gotten in the way of my confidence. Some of it was when, I was married. I mean, it's really tough sometimes to, you never get along 100% of the time. And so sometimes things are said to the other person and that person may not even realize how it affected the other person, I should say. And for me, I would walk out of my door every day to come across as confident as I could be and put the facade on, but there were times that I was not that person. Even recently, there are still times that I'm not that confident person, but, you put on the facade. But my goal was to actually be that person, to not let the things other people tell me. One of the things in my growth program was, they talked about you're the writer of your own story.
That's so true.
And so, I finally decided this was the year. I mean, like when I started the growth program, when they said that to me, you're the writer of your own story, it's like, you're absolutely right. And it's really funny. I had a really funny story that I told in my class the one day. I said, growing up, I lived in my own little fairy tale land, and I thought life was this, like every day the sun just shined over me. Mm-hmm. No matter what the day was, the sun was shining over me. And I actually had a girl in high school basically tell me that if she just didn't know how in the world I could be a happy person every single day, and that if she better not meet me in a dark alley because she was going to take care of the smile on my face.
No.
But when we had our class reunion, when we got older, she told me, she goes, I admired you so much because you were always this happy person, And so that was one of the days I didn't have a lot of confidence, but I thought, up to that point in time in high school, I really thought that everybody loved me. That was the moment I realized that not everybody did. So, but, reality of it is that's just life.
Well, and I think that's true for a lot of people. I think, again, I keep saying as women, but I'm a woman. Sharon's a woman. We've never been men before, so we can only speak from a woman's standpoint. So, I think that's one thing that almost every woman I have ever talked to has had issues with confidence. And, what is so funny about talking to women, and I've talked to women about this a lot, actually, is that what we think another person thinks and feels about themselves is not always accurate. As you know, I have that wellness company on the side, and last, actually it was early this year, so it was January 2018, we did a project with some of the women that had come to one of my wellness classes, my fitness classes, and I had them all, sit down, and they had a piece of paper, and they were supposed to write down one thing about each woman in that group that they admired and loved. And it was so empowering because we'd done that, and they were supposed to turn it over. And then they were supposed to take a piece of paper and write down 3 things that they didn't really like about themselves. And what was so funny about looking at these lists in comparison, that a lot of these things that these women didn't like about themselves was exactly what the other women admired about them. And it was so neat to kind of look at these comparisons because we're our own worst enemies and our own worst critics. Now, that's not to say that there can't be criticism in the world, but a lot of times the criticism we get from other people is coming from deep within them and their own issues that they have about stuff and their own self-esteem issues and their own, lack of confidence in themselves. A lot of times it just stems from that and we don't even realize it. So that was one thing that was a project that we did, and it was just so, there were women that were there just in tears because it was stuff that they had kind of carried around with them for so long. I don't like this about myself and I hate this about myself. And, if you're looking through somebody else's eyes at you, it's completely different. It's completely different. The way that, you see yourself a lot of times almost all times is completely different than the way somebody else looks at you. And I've had people say that about me. They'll tell me, they'll say, you've got it all together, or you just wouldn't understand because you're so this or you're so that. And I'm just like, oh girl, oh my goodness. No, like you have no idea. I can't even tell you the amount of times that I've, looked at myself and nitpicked myself physically, or the decisions I made or, why. And I do that all day long, and I think that all goes back to, again, we all carry around these self-confidence issues. Like you were saying, that was one thing you wanted to project the confidence, and that's good. Even though I said earlier to really show up and, show who you are, that doesn't mean you have to show up and tell every single thing you're not confident about. You want to try to project who you need to be deep inside. When I'm saying that you really need to be who you are, that means, again, don't try to pretend to be super uber professional, and not be your real personality. That doesn't mean you cannot air confidence whenever you really have some self-esteem issues. That's something that we all kind of work through. But I do think it's important to talk about because I know, like with you, Sharon, when I first met you, you did come across as super confident. I thought, wow, she's really got it together. I really admired you. You come in there and you lit up the room and you come across real strong and confident. And, that was something I really admired about you. So, as we got to be closer and you were able to tell me that you have struggled with confidence issues, that was also empowering to me too, because then I was like, okay, well, wow, she struggles with the same thing that I do, so I think it is important as you are able to kind of bridge these relationships with other people that you let them in just a little bit. It doesn't mean you have to be like Dear Diary, and tell them every single thing about you, but to be able to let them see just a little sliver of something real in you that they can say, wow, they're a real person. They struggle with that too. It's empowering.
Like your directions.
Like my directions. I am completely directionally challenged. That probably will not change. Ever.
Yeah. So I just want to touch enjoyable was my last word, but my middle word is respected. And I think as women, we have a hard time sometimes just respecting ourselves. It kind of stems off of the confidence thing, but when you get to the point sometimes where you've ended your day and you've had a bad day, and sometimes you sit there and not only do you not have confidence, but you've kind of lost a little bit of respect for yourself. Maybe, I know myself, my son has ADHD, and there are times that, boy, I don't respect myself for how I handled things with him. Because it can be rough when he isn't, happy about something and he's determined he is not doing what I want. We can just, sometimes I don't even know how to handle it. And, sometimes
he's a teenager.
He is a teenager.
Yeah, that makes it worse.
Yes. And it's not like I can pick him up like I used to and just be like, no, you're going to take a shower now.
Yeah.
When he's like, I'm not taking a shower. It's like, and,
see, he's at that stinky age though. Is he at the stinky age where he never wants to shower?
Yeah.
But
he doesn't
happens.
believe me.
Yeah. That definitely happens.
And so, like the other week, we had a knockdown, drag out fight in the kitchen, and I literally started crying. And I don't even know if I was crying because I was upset with him. I was crying because of how I was handling myself, and I didn't handle myself well. And in the end, though, he did give me a hug and apologize a little bit later on and told me he was sorry for having argued with me in that way. And, and that's life. We all have, I think everybody has that one child, and I love him to death.
I have several of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you got 7 kids. I just have 2.
I do. Yeah, I do.
But I love my son to death. He can be the most kind and caring and cuddly person. Even as a teenager, he still is a cuddly kid. And I love that. And you're not going to get along with every kid. But, at the end of the day, it comes back to the fact that at that very moment, I did not respect myself very much in how I handled things. And
Mom guilt.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Oh, mom guilt. Yeah. I always joke around and say it's not even just mom guilt. Try having mom guilt by your mother looking down at you because, in the German Catholic world, let me tell you, moms can guilt you to death.
Yep.
I think it's a requirement as a German mother. Anyway, so I really do love the 3-word concept, the door words, and when you come up with them, come up with your 3 words. Even if it's not for self-interaction or success markers, whatever the reason is that you've come up with your 3 words, post them places. Let other people see them. Make yourself accountable to them. But if you don't post them, you won't learn what they are. You won't memorize them, and they won't become a part of your everyday. I don't care how ridiculous it looks. I mean, post it note on yourself if you have to. But
I love that. I seriously love the door words. I've always done my word of the year, and I still do that. I pick one word, for the year, and I haven't completely decided. I've got a few words I'm kind of tossing around for 2019, but I always pick a word, and that's my focus word of that year. And then each month I would pick another word, and that was my monthly focus. But I've never really sat down and did the 3 door words for self and interaction and success markers like you had taught until you spoke about it. I was like, wow, I really love that idea, because I have always been, drawn to just a word, like a focus word, as I always said, like a purpose word. And, that's always been something that every year I pick. And that's kind of what I dedicate that year to. And sometimes it's something that I've learned from the previous year. And sometimes it's something that I'm just striving for and want to really, focus on and be for the next year, And I think it doesn't really matter how you use your words, whatever method works for you. But I did really like the idea of separating the words, into your separate interactions. And especially the one for home. For me, that's the hardest one for me, to not drag my work home and not drag my home to work. That's super hard for me.
Not dragging work home is impossible for me right now.
It is. And it's not even necessarily so much that you can't work while you're at home. I do try to, leave a certain amount of time most days, because again, multitasking is, not efficient. So I have, a few hours I try to dedicate to just spend with the kids. And let's be honest, I mean, even if I try to start working at my house, again, I have 7 kids, and half the time there's a couple extra ones running around there, and it's every 2 minutes somebody needs something. So I mean, how much focus work are you actually going to get done if you're getting interrupted every 2 minutes? So most of the time now I just go home and kind of do my thing at home, and then in the evening, I'll block out a little bit of time if I don't pass out somewhere. Because I'm as I am a morning person and not a night person. So usually by 8:30, 9:30 p.m. I'm holding my eyelids open. So
and I'm the opposite.
Yeah, you're the opposite. You're the night owl. Yeah. So we're opposite of that. Actually, this is where we can help each other. See, I can make you get up in the morning, and you can make me stay up a little bit later at night. Because if I could just make it, that's the thing. If I can make it to 11 p.m., I'm golden. I can stay up as long as I need to. But it's just that time between really between 9 and 11. Ooh, that's so hard for me. I'll fall asleep sitting straight up. I'm getting narcolepsy or something. I'm out.
Yeah. I was writing something at 1 o'clock in the morning the other night, and I sent it to Amber, and I'm like, you're so going to have to proof this, because I kept waking up and going, oh, where was I? And I had to move my mouse so it would shake, it would flash on my page. Oh, yeah, that's what I was writing. And I'd write a little bit more, and then I'd catch myself nodding off again.
So it's probably 3 different stories.
Yeah, I make no promises. But it's the best I could do at 1 a.m.
It's hard. I mean, it is. And that's the thing. It kind of goes back to just life as being a woman. Again, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how many times that I have to go home and try to figure out, okay, am I doing too much? Am I working too much? Am I not focusing enough on the kids? And then, so then I'll try to spend extra time with the kids. Well, then I'm staying up late at night, like you said, dozing off. Well, then I don't actually get my work done. So then I'm like, that's fine. I'll set my alarm for extra early the next morning. So then I'm getting up at 2:30, 3 a.m. to try to get it done. Well, that didn't work out good either, because, all these things end up happening to where you're second guessing yourself over and over and over. And, I think that's a theme between women. Again, we're always feeling like we're not doing it the right way. We're not doing it enough. It's never right, never right, never right. And I think that goes back into what you were saying about self-confidence. I think a lot of times that's our own, my own inner Maria is like, you suck at everything
Yeah.
all the time, and I second guess everything that I'm doing, and anything that goes wrong, I start trying to tear it apart, every little minute thing, instead of stepping back and just being like, okay, this is just a part of life. This is just the chaos
Yeah.
that I know is inevitable. You
Yeah.
know, when you're in the middle of it, you're just like, oh, everything sucks. And, I end up getting that, they say you get like the fight and flight response.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, with me, as far as like anything that has to do with like my kids or like work or anything, I definitely get the flight. I'm like, I quit everything. I'm gonna have to stop because this is not working. I start to freak out, and I have to actually make myself calm down and literally talk to myself and say, okay, this is part of it. You're going to have really crappy days where it doesn't line out. You're going to have really crappy days where it seems like, it's not working with home. It's not working with work. Like we talked about in the class today, about just work-life balance, about how it just doesn't always balance out. There's no way to actually get it to that 50-50 balance. And, I think if once we get ourselves talked into the fact that is not actually feasible, there's no 50-50 balance, I think that we can actually start to get ourselves out of this self-confidence funk and kind of really tell ourselves what we need to be doing.
So for me, I think some of it, my ex-husband was a stay-at-home dad. So even with that, I still had moments that I felt guilty. I mean, I traveled a lot with my job during that time period. And so there were times that even when I would come home, I would have so much stuff to do that I had a hard time being able to really give the kids that dedicated time. So I would travel sometimes maybe 7-10 days in a row and then come home. And even though he was home all the time, I mean, it got to the point where it was still tough because just trying to balance, okay, now I'm home and, he has things he'd like me to do around the house or other things he wants me to do because I haven't seen him in 10 days anymore. I've seen the kids in 10 days and just trying to balance it out. So, I think we've kind of beat the dead horse in that respect, but I don't think you ever can stop talking about it because it's such a big issue for women.
It is. And there's still this, have you noticed there's still this inequality too? I know like with myself, if I'm going out of town, like we just went to New York City and Philly, and when people started finding out, they're like, oh my gosh, well, what about the kids? But however, my husband was gone to Florida, for a storm because he's a lineman, for 2 weeks, and nobody ever said, oh my goodness, what about the kids? Because there's still this inequality that, quote unquote, the women, should stay home and deal with the kids. And then, if the husband is doing it, then that's odd. And I feel like I get judged. I don't know if you ever feel that, but I feel like I get judged whenever I'm going out of town. But if my husband's out of town, he's an amazing provider. When I go out of town, it's, oh my goodness, what about the kids? I actually got mad about it. Because I was like, what the hell? I'm like, why is it that he gets, oh, he's such a good provider, and he's gone 2 weeks, and I'm gone 1 week, and everybody's like, well, what about the kids? What's going to happen with the kids? And it's still this inequality. And I've talked to some other women that, they say that that's an issue with them too. And I like to jokingly, I think I was saying it earlier, about the Pinterest moms. The Pinterest moms are the worst. And I've been a Pinterest mom. I like to say
I was never a Pinterest mom.
I'm a recovering Pinterest mom. Oh, I tried so hard. Pinterest will screw you up though. I tried so hard to be the Pinterest mom. I've told you about my ugly Christmas sweater fail. I ended up with pornographic Rudolph accidentally. You get on Pinterest to try to make your ugly sweater, and if you ever see one for Rudolph and it asks you to use a tube sock, let's just say don't do that because when you put it on, it may or may not look like Rudolph.
Or hang appropriately.
Or hang appropriately. We'll just let you fill in the blanks with that. But yeah, I mean, that will, I could have like written my own book on Pinterest fails. And I wanted to be that Pinterest mom. And if I did end up with something that was like Pinterest worthy, I was like, again, like you said, like unicorns and rainbows and angels came down and they played the harp and, I was so excited, but it didn't happen that often. Most of the time I would look at it and be like, wow, all right, that's not what it looked like on Pinterest.
I was on Pinterest for like an evening.
Yeah, you were like, I'm done. I'm out.
I don't have time for this. Maybe my ex-husband was a Pinterest dad. I'm not really sure,
was.
but
Ooh, plot twist. I wonder if he made a Rudolph sweater. You need to ask him. I need to know these things.
Well, so I'll say in that respect, for me, I think it's a little bit different because I'm divorced. And so I have my kids every other week. Mm-hmm. And I try to to make most of my travel on the days that I don't have the kids, but we're real good about making sure we swap days around and we work around each other's schedule because he travels also. Not nearly as much currently as what I do, but in the past he's traveled more than I have. And so, the biggest thing is that I think in any situation, you got to pull together. For the kids.
Most
and
definitely.
it is hard because, there's resentment and there's anger. Let's face it. Like if anybody who's gone through divorce, no matter how much you try to make it be amicable, it is never going to be that way. And unfortunately for me, mine was not amicable for the longest time. It was rough. And, now we're to the point where we really do kind of be like, okay, what do you kids want? What do you want to do? Where do you want to be? And it makes life so much easier. So, for me, I don't really get that because when I'm traveling, my kids aren't there at his house.
Yeah.
And so that does make it easier. I don't have that stigmatism. And people expect me to travel because I've been doing it for so long, number one, and also because they know I have to make a living. And they know I own my own company. All I have to say is kudos to Amber. If y'all ever need a really, really amazing vice president of operations, you are not allowed to steal her.
Yeah.
But y'all need to find your Amber in life. Trust me.
Oh, I'm telling you what, having people to kind of fall back on within your company, within your family is pivotal. And, I think you're right. I think, we all, of course, have these different journeys that we've been on in our life. And you were the working person in your marriage before you got divorced. So I think it probably was very much expected. I think from my standpoint, I stayed at home for a while. So it became very much expected that I stay at home. So whenever I went back to work, that was kind of frowned upon. But, and I don't, regret my time home. It was very much needed for my family. But I do feel that whole time, I was fighting depression because, I didn't have my own identity. My identity was 100% wrapped up in my kids and 100% wrapped up in my family and my home. And not that that's necessarily a bad thing. For that point in time in my life, it was fine. But I really need a balance. Now, like we talked about earlier, I did end up with my breakdown the other day because I felt like so guilty that I've been gone so much. But I think with my new hyper-focused goal for 2019, I can really try to at least find somewhat of a balance. And that's kind of my goal because I do enjoy my time with my kids. I do enjoy my time at home. Well, most days, I don't know. Sometimes I'm home and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go back to work. I'm not gonna lie. But for the most part, I really enjoy that time there with them. But I'm very driven. I'm very goal focused. I really want to be able to do more than just stay at home all the time. And sometimes I feel that I can be stigmatized for that, especially since I was the stay-at-home mom. And so I've got my stay-at-home mom friends. When I decided that wasn't enough, I feel like there's been a little bit of a stigma with that. That's why I was curious about, your experience, with that. So it's kind of refreshing to hear like another side of it from somebody that did, work, full time and, had, their husband stay at home.
Well, and honestly, I don't really know that I had any of my friends that were really ever stay-at-home moms. So I wasn't like the mom in the mom group. My friends are heads of companies, vice presidents of this or that, and they, my sister-in-law runs a daycare. So I think for me, even the women around me, I don't ever have anybody who looks at me and goes, wow, you got to stay at home, because none of my friends are stay-at-home moms, nor have they really ever been stay-at-home moms. So I think that's a little bit different. You were in the whole mom group.
I was in the mom clique where we all cry about how we have no life, and you may or may not be in the same yoga pants for 3 days. Let's face it. You look at your hair and like, do I really need to wash today? Or am I just going to put it in a bun? Golden bun. That's
I have that in my life now. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay. So it's just mom. Okay. Well, that makes me feel better about life. Because it's just momming is hard.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people. Being a mom is hard. It just is. It's the hardest thing I have ever done, because it doesn't matter what I choose. I'm always second guessing myself. If I'm, lax on them, I don't force them, to do their chores, or, I'm like, fine, you can stay up later, or I let them go to their friend's house, even though they didn't get to take the garbage out or whatever it is. I'm second guessing myself. Yeah. But then if I try to be all strict and firm, which is not my natural personality on stuff, I feel guilty about that too. So, I feel like I'm going crazy half the time. That's the reality of having a kid. So if you're pregnant right now, be prepared. You're going to feel insane for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and they will make you feel guilty
for the rest of your life.
Even though you were firm in your decision and you knew you made the right decision, you will feel like shit an hour later.
For the rest of your life. Really, though. But
we love them.
Yes, that's the thing. It's like, it's the most rewarding, but the most terrible, but the most wonderful, but the most just mixed up emotions of anything that I've ever done. And I think that's kind of the beauty and the rawness of it all, especially when you talk to other moms and they feel the same way. So you're like, okay, I'm not insane.
Yeah.
They're feeling the same way. I'm not crazy, and I think that's it's because it's so hard.
Yeah.
It is so hard, and it's why I drink so much wine. It really is.
Yeah, having to travel, and it's the kid's first day of school, and
yes.
My son does not have a full first day of school photo this year.
Just shove him out in the yard and just take a picture. He won't remember 10 years from now. He won't remember that wasn't the actual first day.
That's what he said too. Let me just go take a picture, Mom. And then make sure I'm happy. Just go take a picture.
He won't remember that.
Especially at this age. He's a teenager.
It's the same years that counts. That's. Give yourself some slack on there. Just shove him out in the yard and just be like, first day of school. Bam.
Yep.
Done.
Yep.
Do it. We need to give ourselves permission to do just the best that we can.
Well, and I think it comes back a little bit of, too, on what I learned in the growth program, or really got out of the growth program, is ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. And as a mom and as a business owner and whatever, it's like, you feel like, if I ask for help, do I look like I haven't succeeded? Do I look like I'm not sure what the hell I'm doing? Why am I asking for help? But I'm telling you, you're a master at what you do. And what you do well. And when there comes to that time that you're just throwing your hands up in the air going, there's got to be some other way to do this, but you don't know what it is, that's the time that you ask for reinforcement. And I think that's one of the best things about Marie and I, because we complement each other so much in our work. There's days we feel exactly the same, like the moments we have our breakdown because our kids make us feel really bad about the fact that we work so much. But I think also, there's that time that we're there to hold each other up and pick each other up and be each other's referral source. I need somebody within my business right now, and Maria's like, I got you covered. Thank you. I'm glad. It's not her, but she knows the right person.
I got my sources.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that, you have to give yourself the ability to ask for help, because it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. And so often I think we go through life thinking that shows weakness. To me, it doesn't show weakness. It shows the fact that you know what you're good at, and when it's not your specialty, you're okay.
I know with my business, I do pretty good now about asking for help within the business. Now, with my home life, it's a lot harder. And I think it's because I have reached out to, family. Again, 7 kids and my 9-year-old's autistic. It's not really the easiest shoes to fill if I need somebody to kind of step in my place. But, I know with like family and stuff in the past, it's really hard when especially when Cade was going through his really rough times, he was really hard to deal with. It was really hard to get them to kind of step in during those times. And so, you get to the point where you're afraid to ask because you're afraid of the rejection over and over and over. And I think a lot of people can feel the same way in their business. They felt rejection and they're afraid to ask for help again. That's actually something that, I've been really focusing on, is trying to figure out how to tell people how to take that rejection. I've been working on, almost another class about rejection just totally itself, because I find that with clients a lot that they have a hard time really dealing with rejection. It really shuts them down. And I've dealt with that. I've dealt with that. If you get news you don't want to hear, or, it doesn't go the way that you've dreamed in your head it did, you get that rejection feeling. It makes you want to kind of tuck tail and run or quit, or again, the fight or flight. Just most of the time with that, most of the time it's just flight. You just want to throw your hands up and quit. But, it's really taking that as a learning moment and not taking it as a negative thing, but taking it as a positive. Maybe it wasn't anything that you did. Maybe it was. Really sit and think about what was the reason that it was rejected. Was it not the right time? Did you not ask the right way? Were you not specific about what you could do for them? What was it? With my personal life, I would take that very personally when I'd ask a family member, to help with my kids. And I took it as, okay, well, they don't even give a crap that I'm like struggling here and like drowning in life right now. But looking back at it now, it wasn't so much that they just didn't really understand how to step in and help with a child with issues like that. I didn't even know what I was doing, and I was there every single day. So how would I expect somebody to come in from the outside and not know his little quirks and what sets him off and how to handle it if he's having a meltdown, and expect them to fill in during that time. So, I think a lot of times with these rejections, we're taking it as a personal hit on, oh, okay, they just don't really care. They don't want me to do anything with them. They don't care anything about me. But there's usually way more to the picture than that. So we need to sit and think about if we're getting if we're going out and trying to pitch something to somebody to sell them a service or a product and we're getting rejected, take a step back and look at why. Did you not present it the right way? Did maybe they not fully understand? Was it maybe not the right time for them? There's so many reasons. It wasn't just because you suck. 99% of the time, they are not doing it because they have a vendetta against you. There's usually some reasons. So try to figure out why, and really pinpoint those and kind of pick that apart and see if you can ask in a different way, or if there's something that you can explain better, and really try to figure out that rejection, quote unquote, and take it as a learning experience. So that's one thing I've kind of been breaking apart, and I've been really working on how to actually teach that. And I've come to the conclusion, I think I'm going to video myself. I'm going to wear probably a GoPro or something. I'm going to video myself going and asking stuff. And I'm going to ask stuff that's purposely going to get rejected. Stuff I know is going to 100% get rejected. And I'm going to video, how that reaction goes. And I'm going to go ask the exact same thing a different way to see if I can get a different reaction. It's pretty much just going to be like a project. I want to see if I can take something that's completely ridiculous and just ask it straight up one way, to more than likely get rejected, and then ask it a little bit different approach to see what kind of reaction I can get. It's just a project. Because, I've been asked by a few different people, how to handle situations. And there's some of them that are a little iffy. Some, businesses you're in are a little more tricky than others. So I really want to try to see, how far I can push the envelope, honestly.
I think I want to touch a little bit on what we talked about today on the purpose statement.
Yeah.
So one of the other things I had talked about today and continue to talk about whenever we do our stuff for our business speaking gig, I talk a lot about how we ended our growth program, and it was writing our purpose statement. So, they basically say it's one singular statement that defines who you are. And definitely, I would tell you what I come up with now is the person that I've always felt like I was. And now when I wrote it, I was like, aha, like the angels were singing and the wings and the sun came out and rainbows and the unicorns and everything in my life was all good and happy. I was laying in a field of wildflowers. So, and bawling because I was like, oh my God, this is really who I am. It was really just so moving for me. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how do you prepare your purpose statement and what does that look like? So when you write your purpose statement, you're writing 3 singular sentences. The first one is to be. The second is to do. And the last one is so that. So I'm just going to tell you what my 3 sentences were. My to be was to be seen as someone that lives my life fully and is kind and adds value. My to do is to do things that share my joy for life and influence other. And my so that statement was so that I inspire great things in other people. When I got to the point of writing this, then basically that you add it all together and then you write it out and you actually come up with your statement. And this was like things that I wrote it and I would go away and I would come back and I would write a little more and I would edit it and modify it. So I'm going to read to you what I came up with. So my purpose statement. My purpose in life is to be someone that is seen to live each day with vibrancy, kindness, and influence. To share my joys and strength with those around me, as well as to influence them to do amazing things. So that, in the end, I've added value to their lives and inspired them to inspire others. So, I printed this off and I put flowers around it and hearts around it and everything else. And I sat it down on my desk and I sat and the tears just came into my eyes because it was like, really, honestly, I mean, that is who I believe that I am, and that is who I hope that other people see in me, that I am that person who wants to share the joy of life with others and wants to share it in a way that other people want to go on and be that person and share it too. So, take some time and write your to be, to do so that statements and, come back to them. I mean, I did. I came back to him again and again and again. And, I had a whole week to prepare it. And when I got done with it and I knew it was where I wanted, I literally texted my growth coach and was like, oh my God, I just finished my statement and I'm crying and I'm bawling and it's great and it's wonderful and the world is all at peace. So, and that's literally where I was. It was just such an amazing, great feeling. I think so often in your life, you're not sure who you are and you spend so much time wondering, am I this person or that person? And I think one of the things I learned through the process of the growth program was I really got a chance to learn who I was or not even who I was, but who I really desired to be or be seen as. And so, to have gone through this, multi-month-long process and come through it and came up with this, it was really just that icing on the cake for everything that I learned in the program.
With your purpose statement, how did you come about getting that process out? What steps did you take to really get that on paper, get those thoughts fleshed out? And how can our listeners do the same?
So I think the biggest thing is just to sit down and really do a little bit of soul searching. And, this is something that you can get so thought-provoking about. Honestly, I probably rewrote my sentences 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. And I can tell you I pretty much ended up back with the first sentences that I wrote down. So don't overthink it. So, so you're just, you're looking at who do I want to be? Who do I want to be seen as? And so think about that. When I interact with people, who do I want to be seen as, So, for me, like I said, mine was to be someone that lives my life fully, is kind and adds value. And, figure out who you strive to be, who you feel like you are, because it doesn't matter who anybody else thinks you are. The only thing that matters is who you think you are. And that so you are living to be your true self.
And that's not to be confused with, just trying to be something you're not. Again, when you're trying to get better and you're really trying to pull these pieces of yourself out that you want to be more confident, you want to be more self-assured. All of these things are not trying to be something you're not. That's just trying to better yourself. There's a difference.
So the next one was to do. And so I think, for that, it's to do things. What do you want to do that's going to influence other people or make you feel good about the person that you are? So mine was, to share the joy of life and influence others. We all have our things. I mean, for somebody, it might be to be the best mom that you can be to your kids. I mean, your statement that you create, your purpose statement, it's not going to be your statement probably for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
At my age now, I can honestly tell you the statement I wrote down for at least the next 15 years, I hope it is my statement. But, when I get to the point that I'm ready to sell my business and I'm ready to move on and I'm ready to potentially retire, whatever it is, to be and to do might be the best grandma I could be. I mean, at that point, my kids might be married and I might have grandchildren and, I may be married myself again by then. And I may, my
hint,
thing
hint.
may, hint, and my, things to come. And so anyway, I think that's the biggest thing is to understand what you're writing is what means something to you now in this moment. Don't overthink it.
Exactly. We've talked about that a little bit on here, just about, how do you define success? And we've talked about just the fact that your definition of success can literally change. What you think is success at 16 isn't going to be what you think at 26, isn't going to be what you think at 36. That's going to change throughout your life, and that's okay. And if your goal is, like you said, to be the best mom ever, and you don't have any quote unquote career goals, that's fine. That's your definition of success. And if your definition of success is to, grow your business, great. That's your definition of success. So you just need to sit and figure out, what is it that you define success as? Somebody can't pick that for you.
Yeah. And so the last one is so that, and mine is so that I inspire great things in others. But, that's me. And that's what I want to do. And that's who I want to be. And that's who I feel like I am. I feel like I definitely, as kind of a coach, I love to meet young entrepreneurs and talk to them. And, now I'm going to be doing some stuff with some of the universities around the area. So I think that, your so that may be that so that you have the best kids when they grow up, that they are as educated as they can, as respectful as they can be, so that can be different for everybody. All I can tell you is, for me, mine was, to definitely inspire others. And, it is what it is, and we just need to go through the whole process of determining what that means and looks like for you. Don't overthink it. Don't judge yourself. Just be true.
I love that. And, like she said, you really need to sit down and focus and think about, what is your purpose statement? You're not going to come up with it probably this hour, maybe not this day, maybe not this week. It might take you a long time to kind of figure out, I don't know, what is my purpose statement? But by using the steps that Sharon gave you, that'll help you kind of flesh out that whole idea, that your whole purpose. What is your purpose? A lot of times we talk about, our story, what's our life story? We talk about that within business, what's the why of your company? What's your business's story? It's very important to kind of figure out, on a personal aspect as well as a business professional aspect, what is your story? What's your purpose? Because if you don't know that, it's going to be really hard for the people around you, whether again, it's personal or business, to really know, your why, your purpose, your story. So, that's something that may take some time to to flesh out and kind of figure out, where you're at on that. But that's okay.
And it doesn't have to be perfect.
No.
It just has to be how you feel.
Exactly. And, when we're crafting our story and we're crafting our purpose, that's something that you can kind of help define yourself when you're meeting new people. Like we were talking about, going to networking groups and talking, about, who we are and what our business does. Our purpose statement can go a long way in helping to do that.
Yeah, I've actually shared my purpose statement with people in my networking events, at networking groups and one-on-ones, because sometimes you just don't know where your conversations are going to go to. And so, I've shared my 3, door words with people before, only because our conversations have led to a point where either they needed to be inspired or, they inquired about what I was doing with my master class or whatever it may be. The other thing I'd say within networking is just let the conversations flow. Sometimes that's the easiest way to do it, and it feels more authentic. Don't force what you do on people. Maybe next time when we talk, I've actually created a little 6-question questionnaire that I make all my sales reps take when they do one-on-ones with people. And so maybe next time when we do our talk, I'll bring that along and we can talk about it a little bit.
That would be great. And, when you craft your purpose statement, especially to use in, like we were talking about, the 30-second commercial, that is a really warm way of introducing yourself. They can really kind of get to know, who you are by your purpose statement. So when you're kind of crafting that, think about, how to word things that if they've never met you before, they know nothing about your business, that, once you've given your purpose statement, maybe they'll come away knowing just a little bit. I think that would be a good tip, especially for somebody who's crafting their purpose statement for the first time and maybe is new at networking at the same time. So, that could be a whole lot of new all at once.
Yeah, and I went back to even some of my friends when I was going through my homework assignment and said, hey, does this sound like me? before I even finish writing it. I'll tell you, practice. I mean, this has nothing to do with the purpose statement. When it comes to going to a networking event, it's just like anything else. I mean, practice. If you want to write your 30-second commercial up ahead of time, go through and do it with somebody. If it's something that makes you really, really nervous, so that you don't come across as nervous, or joke around about it and go, okay, here I am again having to do this commercial.
Tell them you're nervous.
Yeah,
I'm really nervous. I've not done this before.
So, but practice makes perfect, whether it's in front of the mirror or in front of somebody. And shoot, reach out to one or the two of us. We'll help you with your 30-second commercial.
We may mock you, but we'll mock you with love. If we call it learning experiences. They're never calling us now. No, we will help you through it while possibly mocking you. That's our method. That's how we do it. It's okay. It works.
You're just, all the things you're thinking in your head, we're just going to say out loud.
We're just going to say it out loud. We're like, yeah, that was really crappy. Let's try that again. With love. We'll say that all with love.
Yeah. Put a smile on your face.
Yeah.
Then try saying it again.
Yeah. You could do like they do when they're singing that, they roll the lips. Yeah. We'll make you do that too. No, we won't. We won't do most of those things. Sharon will, but I won't.
Oh, make me the bad boy.
I'm just kidding.
Good cop, bad cop.
Good cop, bad cop. Yeah, anybody that's listened to this at all knows that I play bad cop pretty well. So
you have 7 children.
That's right. That's a whole different discussion for a whole different day.
I'm a boss. Tell them not today. Swerving on these chickens, cluck out my lane. I'm a boss. Out my way, or just do every little thing that I say. I'm the freaking greatest. I'm the rage, they exclamated. LA Times, I stay on page 6. I'm even your favorite's favorite. You better tell them who's the boss, me. You better tell them